Hello, viewers. Thank you for joining us. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is Talk to OBN Show, our weekly program. Today, we're going to talk about a statement issued by Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia on July 27, 2022. I joined by State Minister of Government Communication Service, Salamait Kasa. Before directly going dive into commentary of this statement, we would like to play you the statement. After that, we are going to do a commentary on some selected tips and extracted statements from the whole section. Stay tuned.
Today, like yesterday, we will pass the challenges with victory and raise our hands in gratitude. Dear Ethiopians, the name Ethiopia is a name of honor, of not bowing down to problems, passing through challenges and overcoming obstacles. There are very few times in history of our country without challenge. By the efforts of Ethiopians and by the grace of God, the nation has got here by passing the serious challenges. Today, even if enormous suffering surrounded us to challenge the strong capacity of our country, even if forces gather to darken our lives with their clouds of trouble, we will not stop moving. For those of us who believe in our firmness and God's help, we always see the bright future that comes after gloomy situation. We know that beyond the darkness there is a bright light. Believing that there is no reason not to overcome today's darkness, just as we have overcome yesterday's darkness, we will not fail to give thanks to the God who has given us strength. Gratitude has the power to make us look at the past with victory, the present with fortune, and the future with optimism. On the other hand, bitterness and ungratefulness creates an attitude of defeatism and unfortunate. It makes us unable to look at ourselves and others with positivity and love. A grateful person is able to see the victory and an opportunity in the suffering and distress. He sees the strength of the ship rather than the waves, rather than the enormity of the test and the problems. He thinks that it's possible to overcome it altogether and with the help of the God. The early civilization of Aksum, Lalibela and its surrounding mystical architecture, the revival and development of urbanization that flourished in Harar and surroundings, the civilization around Gibe that integrated trade with agriculture, effort to promote democracy in the Gada system, the administration around Walaita, Kambata, Alaba, Hadiya, Dauro, and Kafa, where trade and diplomatic relations were based from the Middle East to Europe, an attempt to create centralized government in Gondar, the administrative system based on information and centralization in Afar and Somalia, the civilization in Gambela that gave a special place of honor to women, the excellence of music and musical instrument in Benishangul. Looking back at civilizations that were seen in other areas, these are our resources that we should be proud of. Divisions like the rulers of the times that were inside our country has resisted colonial pressure from abroad with an invisible forces. It can be called a miracle that has remained strong without losing its history and identity. In the process of modern Ethiopia coming together from disintegration to unity, countless wars and conflicts, invasions and power struggle have occurred. Before the construction of the state was completed in the last 50 years, rapid and successful radical change faced our country. Although revolutions, civil wars, epidemics, severe famine, man-made and natural crises have shaken Ethiopia but not destroyed it. Ethiopia's historical enemies, Nir and Afar, are constantly rising up and trying to disintegrate and try to smear Ethiopia's image. They have repeatedly denied its justice in international forums. To prevent Ethiopia from using the rivers that flow from its belly, they made cunningly designed treaties and wickedly woven agreements. In the midst of all this, it is very surprising that our Ethiopia was able to continue as a country. It can be said that the past 4 or 5 years have been the time when we have experienced hope and suffering, unity and diversity, international praise and condemnation, progress and setback, freedom and conflict, unprecedented level in history of Ethiopia. It is time when Ethiopia not only found its children but also lost them. Our great Renaissance dam, which is to be finalized has already started generating power. A country called the land of drought and misery continues its progress toward its wilderness by planting billions of saplings and setting up parks everywhere. While Westerners think that the guarantee of existence is wheat, Ethiopia is on the verge of producing surplus wheat for others with its summer wheat and large grain and vegetable farms. Finfine, which was once called the garbage dam of Africa, is on the verge of getting a look that benefits its name. Dear Ethiopians, when we look back at the past few years, where brothers were cruel to his brother, where we clashed in such a way that we didn't even live together, where human lives were taken by the greedy, and when the blood of our people was shed in vain by people who had no purpose but target, our hearts break with sadness. As a generation, we feel shame when we think of the human lives and destroyed national wealth that the wars and conflicts in the northern and western parts of our country have caused us. Not only our eyes, but also our souls read. The damage and misery caused by the disasters that once happened in the eastern and southern parts of our country is not to be forgotten. Those who understood that the change came only to protect the interest of Ethiopia, especially those who have a strong interest in the Nile and the Horn of Africa, were pouring out their destruction through direct and indirect means. Great Western media and institutions are also relying on the power of their governance and marched against our country. They were doing everything they could to destroy its economy image at an international arena, despite the fact that their efforts and attempts revived Ethiopian unity but did not throw it away. Adwa's victory was repeated in our time. The dark cloud of disintegration that loomed over country was lifted. This was the story of our time where we saw that the gods of Ethiopia is always within us. Many countries failed to withstand the international pressure and influence that came down on Ethiopia in the last 2 years and collapsed. But the God of Ethiopia did not hand us over to our enemies. The statement stresses that there are countries like Ethiopia that stands above its problems. How many countries have lasted for a long time in unity considering the diversity of language, culture and religion? How many countries are like Ethiopia that are full of resources enriched with soil and surfaces, air and water are blessed, as well as blessed with courage of heart and brilliance of mind? Is there any country like Ethiopia where the black people's look and appearance of different varieties spread out and shine? Is there a country that is a symbol of Africa in terms of freedom and sovereignty other than Ethiopia? Is there a country like Ethiopia that has treated the refugees and foreigners of other countries like their own children since ancient times? Are not Ethiopians who register victory over victory on the world sports stage? If we think carefully, count our blessing, we Ethiopians have many other resources and causes to be grateful for rather than bitter. That is why we should stand and praise and honor to Creator in many matters, the statement elaborated. Today's challenge of Ethiopia will not be a cause which will be obstacles for its growth. Rather, those challenges will be bridge of its progress. At the very least, our potential resources as a country which have been seen by our enemies and those who do not wish for our good should also be seen by us. The fastest way forward is gratitude and being able to accept the good things we have with an appreciation and honor. From the soil land to the space, from the phase to the historical wells, from the climate to the diversity of culture, from the bravery to the love of freedom. We are grateful that we have enormous wealth given to us by the Creator. Instead of hating and clashing with each other, let us appreciate our culture and praise each other. Let us not tire the future generation by complaining about the past. What is missing? Above all, we have seen our friends denied us, our helpers turn away, our neighbors become desolate. Ethiopia's unchanging power and protector is the only Creator. I don't think it would be too much if we decide one day out of the 365 days of the year to offer our thanks to the Creator and think about His favors. For 1 minute out of the day, we should put aside everything we are doing, stop where we are, think of the Creator's favor and goodness, and thank the God of Ethiopia. And instead of welcoming the coming year with bitterness and anger, hatred and contentment, and revenge, we should welcome it with appreciation, gratitude, understanding, and forgiveness. As a nation and people, as a leader, and as citizens, let us thank Him from the bottom of our hearts to the Creator of the universe and the source of all goodness. He protected us from an evil epidemics, saved us from a swarm of locusts, stood by us so that drought does not become scourge. The danger of destroying us from near and far has also been reversed. God helped us to realize the great project we have started and the filling of the gird. He has protected our country and our people from ancient times until today with His grace. I invite you to stop for a minute and give thanks to the God of Ethiopia. May Ethiopia be proud of her children's effort and live forever. May the Creator bless Ethiopia's people. July 27, 2022, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed.
Good to see you, Salam.
Thank you very much. It is wonderful to be here. And as we are going to talk about gratitude and Thanksgiving, I thank you personally and the OBN staff for your remarkable works. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, let me begin with this one. In the statement says the name Ethiopia is the name of honor of not bowing down to problems, passing through challenge and overcoming problems, the PM said in his statement. What does it mean by? He defines Ethiopia this way. How do you see this?
Absolutely. Whenever we think about our lives, whenever we see the history of our country, there's always this huge thing that we need to see as Ethiopians. We are great in overcoming challenges. That's how our history has been designed. You can see what was happening in our country in the past 100 and 200 years. But coming even more closer to our day in the past 50 years, in his statement, our country has been through political and economic turmoils. There were ups and downs and a lot of challenges as a country that we have faced. And even more closer to our day, in the past 2 or 3 years, we have seen a lot of changes in our country. Our politics has been in a very moving way. There was a very destructive war that we had to overcome as a country, as peoples. And there were other international challenges as well that could have brought a lot of devastation to our country and our people. But we stood strong. That is the main point of the Prime Minister's statement. We as Ethiopians have been through all these challenges, but we have survived them and still emerged as a strong nation, as strong people. So we need to actually see what we have been through in the past years, because a lot of things were happening and we didn't really have the time to reflect on what was going on in our country, what our history has said, and what as individuals, as citizens of Ethiopians, what have we contributed to our country. So we need to stand for a moment and think about those challenges, how we overcame through them, and how we can move forward towards the new year that we are going to jump into in a month or so. So we need to stand for a moment and think about all those challenges and the solutions that we gave, and give thanks to the God. As Ethiopians, we need to give thanks to each other as well, because we have been through a lot, and people have been coming together to overcome those challenges as well. So that is a very timely statement, if you ask me.
to talk about another extract. The PM has said, by the efforts of Ethiopians and the grace of God, the nation has got here by passing all serious challenges. Would you discuss all the major challenges that the country has been facing and the mechanism employed to curb those challenges?
Yes, I want to tell you something. When I was reading this statement, this part of the statement, the one thing that came into my mind was the Greek mythology, the phoenix. You know, I'm sure you've heard about this mythology in Greek history. This is a great bird that burns, that emerged from the ashes. And it's a symbol of, strength. It's a symbol of hope. It's a symbol of rebirth. And this was the first thing that came into my mind when I was reading this part of the statement. We Ethiopians have been through a lot. Take, for example, in a very recent years, the COVID-19 pandemic has put a lot of toll in our economy, in our day-to-day lives. People were not allowed to move. They were not allowed to get out from their homes. They were not allowed to go to their work. So they had to stay home. A lot of people, millions of people, could have been affected by this pandemic in a very damaging way. But we Ethiopians came together. We started looking to our neighbors. We started thinking of those who are in need in that moment. We started sharing our food, sharing the basic necessity equipments for our neighbors, for the people around us. At that time, this unity, this spirit of togetherness has blossomed a lot. This is one thing that we overcame in the past few years. The other thing that could have put a lot of toll in our economy as well, but we overcame that too. And in our recent history, in our recent memory, Ethiopia has been in a war, in a very devastating war. But Ethiopians have come together to curb that challenge. And this is one thing that we as Ethiopians should think and give thanks to ourselves, to our spirit of Ethiopianness and togetherness. And as the mythology says, as a phoenix, we need to rise up from the ashes that was caused by the war, from the ashes that were caused from the economic devastation around the world. And yes, we can rise. That's what I believe.
Appreciate it, Salam. Let me go on to another extract of the statement again. The PM has stated that although revolutions, civil wars, epidemics, severe famine, man-made and natural crises have shaken Ethiopia but not destroyed it, Ethiopia's historical enemies near and far are constantly rising up and trying to disintegrate and try to smear Ethiopia's image. How do you substantiate this?
When it comes to the pressure from the international community and from those who do not wish good for us, this is not a new thing. What we are seeing today is not a new thing. This was going on for years, for hundreds of years. I'm sure you can remember or at least read about the incident where at the time of the Italian invasion, Ethiopia has been calling out for the world to see and to put a stop in the invasion and the cruelty of that time. But the world didn't give proper attention to that, to the call of our country, to the call of by then Emperor Haile Selassie. This was an international phenomena, and history has been written about this a lot. And coming to the recent incidents, Ethiopia has been trying to voice out its stand when it comes to the River Nile. We, as Ethiopians, have been trying to use the water in a fair and justified manner by building the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. But the pressure coming from the international community has been great when it comes to this agenda. And we have been denied to voice our concerns, to show how this dam can be a very impactful construction, a very impactful project to the Ethiopian lives, to the daily activities of our country and our citizens. But the international community hasn't been as supportive as it should be. And in another incident, as the Prime Minister stated in his statement, you remember how the international community is trying to put pressure on our country and the citizens when we were going through the war. So all this calculated pressure that is being put in our country is something that we need to think about, and that is something that show us that we Ethiopians have to come together to overcome all those pressures that are coming from the international community. Otherwise, we cannot survive them. That is how we survived all this, because we were able to stand together. We were able to stand in a unified agenda that is Ethiopia. Our unified agenda has always been Ethiopia, has always been the sovereignty, the strength, and the development of our country, our beloved country. So we should also think about that thing that brings us together, which is our country. And I believe that is the whole gist of the statement.
Okay, let me proceed to another extract again. The PM again put it in a figurative way. This one is, it can be said that the past 4 or 5 years have been a time when we have experienced hope and suffering, unity and diversity, international praise and condemnation, progress and setback, freedom and conflict at unprecedented level in the history of Ethiopia. And this is literally oxymoron expression. You see, the ups and downs, all the accomplishments and suffering on the other hand. How do you see this again?
Absolutely. That is why we need to take a moment to internalize, to see and evaluate the road that we've been following through those years. As the statement clearly stated, that we have been through a lot. We have been through the ups and the downs. We have been, getting praises as a country, and we were also being condemned by the international community and others as well. Those incidents in our country will be written in history, and we need to stand on the right side of history as a country. So in the Prime Minister's statement, one thing that he noted is that being grateful is not forgetting the past challenges. Being grateful is actually getting the power to look into our victories, those small victories, those big victories that we had, and the challenges that we ever overcome as citizens, as Ethiopians, and also looking into the future as well, because our challenges are not done today. Our challenges are not over. As Ethiopians, we are still struggling to overcome all those challenges, those issues that we need to resolve. So being grateful and having a forgiving mindset will give us a clear mind to bring new solutions to our problems. We need to have that clear mind so that we can come up with new solutions to give to our people, to give to our country. But the bitterness and the unforgiving ideas and attitudes that we could live through can only bring us defeat. and can only bring us unfortunate incidents as well. So we need to look positively towards the future. We need to look positively towards, gratefulness, and we need to start forgiving and look into the future with new attitude.
The statement reads, in quote unquote, while Westerners think that the guarantee of existence is wheat, Ethiopia is on the verge of producing surplus wheat for others with its summer wheat and large grain and vegetables farms. How do you see this, Herald, as well?
Absolutely. See, this is the one thing that we need to start thinking about. We were in a lot of turmoil, and a lot of challenges were around us. So we tend to forget all those activities, all those victories that we had in the past year. One of those incredible things that happened last year is the fact that we could become self-sufficient. The fact that we can also export agricultural products like wheat is something remarkable. And this is not just said by us, by the government, or by our citizens. This is something that the international community has acknowledged. The African Union has acknowledged this fact. And this is something that other countries should also learn from. See, we Ethiopians, when going through challenges, we become even more strong, even more focused on issues. This is the one thing, the one evidence that our country should proudly, state in international arenas, because we were going through a very devastating war. The international economy was devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic, and also the war between Russia and Ukraine has brought a lot of changes in the dynamics of the economy. But through all this, Ethiopia has managed to produce an agricultural product, especially wheat, that can make Ethiopia self-sufficient, and also give a hope, export wheat. So this is one thing that we should be grateful for. This gives a bright future. This gives the hope that we can actually overcome the challenge of, food shortages and the scare of the famine and droughts that are still happening in some parts of our country. So you can have the challenges, and you can also work on those challenges to give solutions as a new perspective. And I believe that is how the statement wants to convey the message.
In quote unquote, many countries failed to withstand the international pressure and influence that came down on Ethiopia in the last 2 years and collapsed. Perhaps this collapsed countries, as of the statement, might be Libya of civilizations and the origin of mankind, whatever.
In his statement, the Prime Minister was, as you mentioned, talking about the international pressure and how other countries couldn't survive this kind of, calculated and very orchestrated pressure coming from different, directions. That is absolutely true. Let's take an example from, something closer to my profession. The calculated and very orchestrated pressure that was coming from the international media when we were facing those challenges last year and the past 2 years, when Ethiopia was going through the war. The international media was putting a lot of pressure in our country, saying all those misleading informations, trying to paint Ethiopia in a different image than what we actually are, and trying to put pressure in the government as well. But Ethiopians have come together and have taken this grievance that they have with the international media and those who were trying to disseminate false information throughout the media and throughout the diplomatic arena as well, they took their stand, and they clearly showed that they will not stand for this kind of, heinous act from these parts. And we remember that there were, huge protests that were going in our city, Addis Ababa, and all over the country, the major cities. And this clearly shows that whenever there is something that tries to attack the integrity, the togetherness, and the sovereignty of our country, Ethiopia, we Ethiopians do not stand for that. And that is something to actually be very grateful, and that saved Ethiopia from, facing the same fate as those countries that you mentioned in your question. That's how we survived all those pressures, and that is how we can survive the future challenges that we can face as well, by becoming, as one, and by coming together and facing the challenges as one nation.
Okay. A statement directly dedicated to gratitude, and PM called for nationwide days of gratitude. And why gratitude, and why now? To wrap up our dialogue.
Absolutely. Why gratitude? Well, gratitude is something that you can start from. We need to give thanks. Give thanks for God, for helping us through some miraculous ways, and give thanks to Ethiopians as people, as society, for coming together whenever the Ethiopian sovereignty was in danger, whenever our country was in danger, for standing together and looking through all those challenges and putting Ethiopia first. Give thanks for ourselves, for being sane, being strong, and taking a lot of responsibilities that can bring Ethiopia to the future. Why now? Well, a lot of things has happened, as we have been stating in our discussion. And think about all those things that were happening, that were going through in our country, in the world as well, and actually recognize our strength and recognize the victories that we as Ethiopians have, stated. And we need to think about the future as well. We are going to, go into a new year in a month or so. So we need to come up with a new way of looking towards things. We need to start looking at things differently, and we need to come up with new solutions for our problems. And to start that, we need to start at some point. And that point is gratitude and thankfulness. So we can start by thanking each other for being together and for standing together as Ethiopians. And then we can build on that. We can build solutions on that. We can build, new ways of thinking on that. And that is, this time is a very critical time. This is a very important time in our history as a country. And this is the time that we need to think about for our generation, for our children as well. So what kind of country are we planning to, give to our children and to the next generation as well? So these are the things that we need to pause and think about. And I believe a lot of people have taken that assignment seriously and taken some time to think about and reflect on those things that were going on in our country.
Well, finally, if you have anything to say in conjunction to this statement, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for giving me this chance to say some things. By the way, the culture of thanking each other. Thanking God is not something new for us as Ethiopians. We have always been saying this in our, day-to-day conversations. Whenever you greet someone, the first thing that comes to their mouth is thanking God, or in every religion that is. And we used to, we are used to thanking each other as well. We thank our neighbors, we thank our families as well. But this time, let's take it seriously and give some purpose to it, and think about all those people in our lives that have done good for us.
Okay.
And thank them. And as a society, let's thank our, country. Let's thank God for, bringing us all this time. And yeah, let's thank ourselves as well for standing strong together.
Okay, indeed. Thank you as well. Salamait Kasa, State Minister of Government Communications Service. Thank you for making time and sitting and reflecting commentaries on the government's statements. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your efforts as well.
Thank you. Dear viewers, this brings you the end of our edition for today. See you next time with another edition. Take care. Bye-bye.